two, one. KenCast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to KenCast. Whether you're joining us live, watching us right now as we're doing this, or if you're watching on the replay, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We have a lot to talk about today. Of course, I know you've seen the news, or at least you've seen this thumbnail for this video, that maybe we have some Cobra Kai spinoffs in the works. Maybe that's been confirmed. I don't know. We're going to get into that today. We're going to have a lot of news to talk about. And of course, your questions, your comments live in the chat. If you're not watching us live and on the replay, just throw your comments down below the video and we'll see them there as well. It's wonderful to have you here today. Now, in order to discuss these things, because these are important topics about Cobra Kai and potential spinoffs and just what's going to happen with the series going forward, just general thoughts about the universe, philosophy, and wisdom, I'm very pleased to have as a special guest today, Cobra Kai Wisdom himself, Mike. Mike, it's great to have you on board. Thanks for joining us today.
What's up, Ken? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, absolutely. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you for bestowing your knowledge and wisdom on us today. We're going to try and figure out this, and I'm sure you've seen the headlines, Mike, about like potential spinoffs and, you know, what's happening with Cobra Kai after the final season. And before we get going, I want to point everyone to what you do. You have this amazing wit and you share your wit through these amazing memes, and you have great thoughts on the series and everything, but you create these amazing and classic memes. And I want to get to a few of those in just a second, but can you tell us about how you got started doing this?
Yeah, well, I just realized that I'm about to hit my 3rd anniversary, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it all started March 2020. And just before the pandemic, we were actually what we thought we were getting ready for season 3 to come out on YouTube Premium. Of course, that turned out not to be the case. So it was full-blown Cobra Kai mode again, spring of 2020. And I've been part of the fandom, if you will, for about a year now. I've been part of the Cobra Kai companion community with Peter and all them. Yes. I'm a mod in their Facebook group, but I'd never really had my own fandom or Cobra Kai identity. And I wanted to figure out some type of way to contribute something on my own. And I don't do YouTube shows like you. I don't do podcasts like Peter. I'm not an artist. So what I've been contributing so far was humor, the humorous aspect of the show, which there's a lot of. And it started out in the Facebook group, called it Mike's Wednesday Wisdom, creating these 3-tiered memes and just taking a scene or sometimes scenes from the show or the movies and creating funny alternate dialogue. And it was pretty successful, but like I said, I was only doing it once a week in Facebook because it was supposed to be only on Wednesday. And I realized I was just creating them, and I had like 20 of them in my back pocket. I said, this is going to take me forever to get out. So I realized this was my opportunity to create my own Cobra Kai identity, if you will. So I created an Instagram page and a companion Twitter page called Cobra Kai Wisdom, and out came the initial memes. And at the time, there were only 2 seasons. So I worked with what I could, just the first 2 seasons. And it was a great way to contribute to the fandom. And then, like I said, at this time, we also discovered that season 3 was not coming out on YouTube Premium. We didn't know where or when or if it was coming out. So it was a real tense time in the fandom where we were all wondering what's going on. We weren't talking with the big 3 as much. The official sites were dead. Nothing was coming out of them. So tensions were high, never mind what was going on in the world at the time. And so it was just a good way to just bring some humor and some lightheartedness into the situation. And the show lends itself to that a lot. And in the meantime, it was also a great way to connect with the fandom further to people who either weren't in the companion group or who weren't involved in it so far. And I've just met some amazing people through it. And now that I'm going on, like I said, almost 3 years, it's just been an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's incredible. 3 years. Congratulations on the 3-year anniversary. Everyone, I want to show and go through with Mike here because I know a lot of you have seen his memes. Some of you might be seeing them for the first time. I want to share a few of them, and we'll have Mike comment on them because I just think they're absolutely classic. Okay, I'm going to bring up one here. So this is a reference to season 5. And Chosen begins off talking with Daniel there. When I'm through with Silver, he'll be gasping for air. And then, Chosen is talking with Terry at his home, and he does an about face and says, and then Daniel-san goes, hey, come on, man, that's all my money. And then Terry laughs. I just can't stop breathing. So, see, okay, guys, this is the kind of stuff that Mike is just so amazing at because you're keying into all of these characters. Like, you understand these characters so well. And I love this because, yeah, there's a lot that Chosen and Cherry Silver have in common, and you're seeing that here. It's like, oh, that's nice that Daniel trusts Chosen. But then, like, what happens when he goes and talks with Silver? He's having a great time, and they're kind of commiserating about Daniel and kind of laughing at him and stuff. I don't know. Like, so how did these ideas come to you?
Like I said, it's been almost 3 years, and I genuinely still have no idea. They just they come to me. I don't know, but like you said, there's so many different relationships and different characters within the trilogy and the show, and a lot of those characters center around Daniel. That they've had this history with him. They've loved him, they've hated him, or both. And if you were to take a situation like that, what if Chosen and Terry just laid their cards on the table and talked about their history with Daniel?
Right.
What if Johnny was also at that table and Barnes? And they were like, okay, yeah, but let's talk about LaRusso for a sec. And next thing you know, it's an hour later and LaFord are hysterical talking about all the things. Even Amanda could be at the table. Like, oh, no, I got this story about Daniel. Let me tell you this one other thing you did. They actually have so much in common. It just lends itself to all different types of possibilities.
Absolutely. Now, let me put up this one. I'll have you describe this one.
I was watching. I just completed a full binge of the trilogy and the 5 seasons, and every time you watch the show, you pick up something that you hadn't caught the time before. Doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. And one thing I caught in the season 5 finale was the music that hit when the Mitch situation was revealed. It was like this big dun dun dun, like, oh my God, heart-wrenching. I can't believe this has happened. You would have thought that Chosen had betrayed Daniel and that he was working for Terry all along. Like, oh my God, I never would have seen that coming, but it turned out to be freaking penis breath. Right. Traitor all along. And it was like, how could you? But then you realize, okay, so you got him now. Like, we got Tori, you got Mitch, and you want to say things are even. No, not so much. You can take him. And that's just another one of those situations, like, if you really thought about it, like, okay, you got Mitch now. We'll live.
Right.
We didn't even know his real name.
Yeah, it's so great. I love this. Okay, I'm going to throw another one up.
Anytime I can get in young Terry and young Kreese, the better, because I love their relationship. I hope we see more of older Kreese and older Terry in season 6. But once you get young Kreese and Twig there, you just know that Quicksilver, he's in there somewhere. It didn't just pop up out of nowhere. I don't believe it was all drug induced. He's in there somewhere. And what if his first act of being classic Quicksilver was right there in that cage, and the man just didn't want to die? He saw what happened to his teammate earlier, and he didn't want that to happen to him. So he pretended being the scaredy cat Twig and let Kreese take the bait for him, let him take the fight. Knowing Quicksilver as we do, I could see him that being his first ploy.
Right. And that's the thing. That's what's so brilliant about your stuff, Mike, is a lot of Terry Silver fans like myself kind of suspected that maybe something like that was happening, because from what we've seen in, say, Karate Kid 3 in his younger career, he's really good at manipulating. He's really good at
Oh, yeah.
conning. And like, was this kind of, as you're saying, a con to save his ass, basically? And if it is, did he know that Kreese would jump in? And is that kind of a thing where he was happy to have Kreese take his place?
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of seeing these characters over such an extensive time period, decades in case of Kreese and Terry, but it's the same character. It's the same person. I don't accept the fact that, at one point in time, he was this way, and another point in time, he's bad. It's the same person. Those personality traits, they're in there somewhere. You just got to dig them out. And those two know how to do it to each other, Kreese and Terry. They know how to dig out the worst of themselves in each other and the worst of the other themselves.
Yes, I think you make fantastic points, and I 100% agree with you. And everyone, this kind of character analysis, it's everywhere. It comes out regularly. So go ahead and follow my Cobra Kai Wisdom. I've got links in the description, both Instagram and Twitter. Definitely worth a follow. It will brighten up your day every time he comes out with a meme. It is absolutely hilarious. So check out Cobra Kai Wisdom. And so, Mike, obviously, I think we've all seen that you just have wisdom about this, not only the characters, but the universe. You're a huge fan of the Cobra Kai universe and the original Karate Kid universe. You know all these things. It's in your blood. And so I think we will all benefit from your thoughts today, on all our discussions. But number one, what I wanted to ask you about, kind of before I want to get to some of the comments, some great comments are happening right now. I wanted to ask you about season 6. As a fan, it was announced that season 6 will be the final season. And I wanted to get your reaction as Cobra Kai Wisdom to the fact that this is kind of the end of Cobra Kai.
Yeah, my initial reaction, my gut reaction when I first learned the news, I was actually in my car heading down a long car trip in Virginia. I was at a 7-Eleven rest stop when my phone started buzzing uncontrollably, and I learned the news. And my gut reaction may surprise you and a lot of your listeners here, was that I was happy, which you wouldn't think from someone, like you said, who's been a huge fan of the Karate Kid Miyagi-verse for 30 plus years, to be happy that it was ending. And I thought about it for a while. Why is this my reaction? One, I was happy that we were getting our new season, because as weeks and months were going on from season 5, I think we were all getting a little bit less confident about that. And in the meantime, we were watching all these other shows get the axe for no apparent reason. Popular shows, good shows, shows that people really liked, were just not being renewed or were being canceled for no apparent reason. That was happening more and more over October, November, December, January. So I was happy that it was coming back at all. The other reason that I'm speculating that was my initial reaction, was to be happy about it, is that not only is the show coming back, but we know our show is going to get its epic conclusion. Our story is going to get its ending, its happy ending, whatever conclusion that the big three have been planning in their minds. They've always said, we have the end in mind. We know how we want the story to end. We just don't know how and exactly when we're going to get there. We now know that they get to tell that story, which is awesome, because those three are going to plan the most epic conclusion to this story that we could possibly imagine. And it's not really even just the conclusion of Cobra Kai, it's the conclusion of the Karate Kid story. And we'll talk about spin-offs and things like that later on, but for what we have so far, it's the conclusion of Daniel LaRusso's and Johnny Lawrence's story. And we're now going to get to see that through the big three's eyes. These three huge fans get to tell that story. And I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see how the story ends. And I think the biggest tragedy would have been, obviously, if the show just had not been renewed at all, if season 5 would have been it and the story had just been cut off. And also, okay, what if they had just said season 6, but then we didn't know about the future of the story after that? What if there was no season 7? And then we got even more invested into the story and then didn't get a conclusion. Or what if something like, August comes, Blue Beetle, Sholo becomes a huge star, and he's not in the final season, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final season of Cobra Kai doesn't have Miguel in it. That just doesn't work.
Right.
So it's just, the further it goes, the more and more opportunity there was that we could not get this epic conclusion. And now we know it's going to happen. And now the announcement came out before they started writing the season. So now the big three, they're sitting there in their writing room right now, I think it's February, knowing that this is going to be it. This is going to be it. And they can just go to town. They can just write their epic conclusion the way they've always dreamed with nothing to lose, really. It's happening. Netflix and Sony has given them the green light. They can write it and they know it's going to be the end. They can go nuts and write their epic conclusion.
Mike, honestly, like all of us I know have been kind of sad to see the show go, but what you have just said just is so hopeful. It's so optimistic. And I think should put us all in a good mood about seeing, an ending that they had planned for since the beginning. And they're going to be able to end this the way they want. And thank you for sharing that, because I know a lot of fans have been down about the end of the show, but I think you put it in a great light. It's going to go out with a bang. It's going to be what they wanted to do since the beginning, and we're not going to be left hanging. I love it. I love it.
And I get people's reaction, people calling it bittersweet, people being sad about it. And there certainly are going to be things that I'm going to miss, like the new trailer drop or a new Zach and Leo soundtrack, something new coming out. I'm going to miss those parts of it because those are always exciting and fun. But we're now going to get our perfect story. And I think if you think about like your favorite book, like a masterpiece book that has a perfect beginning, middle, and end, you don't care how many chapters that book has. It's a great book. And I think when we look back years from now and we're watching Cobra Kai, the full series, for the 200th time, we're going to see it as our perfect story. And we're not going to care, it was 6 chapters instead of 7. It's not going to matter at that point. It's the perfect story.
Yeah, that's put so beautifully. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for sharing the true bit of wisdom on how we should be looking at this. It's going to be absolutely great. I want to take a minute and say hello to everyone who's joining us today in the discussion. Lisa Barrett, thanks for being a channel member. Lisa, good to see you. AEH, great as always. Nerd World, hello, Ken, and Cobra Kai Wisdom. How are we feeling today? How are you feeling today, Mike?
It's Saturday. What do I have to complain about?
Exactly. And Tigterrysilverrocks, channel member and executive producer of this podcast. Thank you for joining us, Tigterrysilverrocks. I know we agree with the sentiment behind your username 100%. Josh, hello, Big K. Great to have you. Thank you. Marianella, wonderful. Bryce Productions, Frank. Hey, Ken, hope you're doing well. I hope every one of you guys is doing well and in a good mood today. Swinetastic. Mike, we're going to talk about this #SaveSilver in a little bit, because little does everyone know that Mike has been working behind the scenes in DC. He's in the legal profession. We've been working on this. So, we'll talk about this in just a second. Matt Moore, wonderful to see you. What's up? Good to see you. Max Kelly says, if they do a movie about young Mr. Miyagi, they need to use CGI of young Pat Morita while they get a young actor to portray him. Now, this is something, Mike, I was talking with Peter from Cobra Kai Companion about this, and a lot of people want this young Miyagi series, and we're going to talk more about spinoffs, guys, in just a second. There's going to be, some news that we want to talk about, but a lot of people want this young Miyagi series. And one thing that I kind of brought up is it's going to be tricky. You're going to have to cast it very well, because the second that comes out, people are instantly going to be comparing the new actor to Pat Morita, which is probably one of the all-time greatest performances, all-time greatest characters in movie history. So here we have an idea from Max that they could cast someone, but basically, Star Wars it, use CGI to kind of de-age him and make him look like Pat Morita. I don't know. What's your reaction about these possibilities?
Well, as of right now, the possibilities are endless. If we're talking spin-offs, I've always loved the young Miyagi idea. I think that opens itself up to so many different possibilities. I'm not sure about using CGI to bring back Pat Morita. I think that would be very hard, very expensive. But I do agree. If we're talking about getting an actor to play the role of Mr. Miyagi, that is going to be quite a task and take quite an actor. But I think that can be done. I think of Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's now associated with that role. And you can say what you want about some of those movies and the show he was in, but he's fantastic at it. He plays the character, and he's true to it. And you believe he is Obi-Wan, just like you believed Alec Guinness was older Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think the possibility exists. And if, depending on what time period we're talking about, if we're talking wartime, that's 40 years before the Karate Kid took place. So it would be believable that it wouldn't be entirely the same thing. Just like the way they've gotten a young Kreese, a young Terry Silver, kind of about the same time difference between the show, young and older Kreese and Terry, so that it would make sense, but you believe it's the same character.
Yes. And that's a great point that you bring up about Star Wars or any of these other properties where you've cast a younger version with a different actor and people just completely buy that that's the same character. And I remember back like when they were trying to do Star Trek and remake Star Trek, and it's like, oh, how are you going to get someone to do William Shatner, as Captain Kirk? And they cast Chris Pine, and he was just an amazing success. Like everyone just accepted him as the character. And yes, if that's an actor's job, and we've been doing it with Shakespeare, and all these plays for hundreds of years, you have new actors playing the same role. And it works out really well. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be expensive and maybe kind of a trap to try and CGI Pat Morita, in that role. Let a new great actor portray the character, and then that incarnation of the character might live on in future series and movies as well. Kind of like you were saying, those examples you gave of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hey, we just had also young Sato in season 5, and I thought he was fantastic.
Yes.
That actor who, by the way, is on a trip now in Okinawa. If you follow his social media, he's in Okinawa right now representing Miyagi-Do. But I thought he was fantastic. He wasn't a carbon copy of Sato from Karate Kid Part 2.
Right.
We know it's a different actor, obviously, but you believe it's the character. There's no reason they could not do that again.
Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to bring this up. This is Mario, and he says, "Hi, I've stayed off your channel for a while because it saddened me to hear about season 6 being the final season." And it's great, Mario, that you joined us today. And I hope you got a chance to hear what Mike was saying, because it's a good thing. It's sad that it's going, but it looks like it's going to go in the best way possible. So hopefully you feel a bit better. And we're here. We're not going anywhere, Mike, right? We'll be here to talk about stuff, whether the series is on or off.
I'm going to be here 10 years from now. Look, I was talking about the Karate Kid for 35 years before I even dreamed of a show called Cobra Kai. So you want to talk about the show? I don't care if it's still around or not. I'll be talking about it. But even if we're just talking season 6 and that's it, that's at least a year away. We got a lot to do and a lot to talk about before that even comes out. So don't be a stranger. We'll be around.
We'll be around, and we have goals. I mean, we have to save silver. We're working on that too, and we'll get to that in just a second. Thanks for the sticker, Claude Leon. Thanks for supporting the channel. And thanks for being a member. Really appreciate it. Good to see you flip the script. Maybe Cobra Kai will end with Johnny defeating Daniel in the final of the Sakai Taikai Sensei bracket. There is all kind of speculation right now, Mike, about this. What's going to happen with the Sakai Taikai, and who's going to compete? Are they going to have a senseis around, or the senseis of the schools are going to fight each other? And I don't know. Do you think I guess it's not too early to speculate, but I don't know. What's your feeling? Can we even begin to guess what might happen?
My thought, my really only thought, stems from an unusual place, which is the old Karate Kid 3 novelization.
Okay, yes.
Which printed that out when the movie came out in 1989. The final paragraph is talking about Daniel, how he has accomplished something greater than just defeating Mike Barnes or even John Kreese or even Terry Silver. It says, "We have finally defeated Cobra Kai, the way of the fist," implying that the way of the fist is something larger than just one sensei. And I think that was a theme that started to be explored in season 5, when we learned that there's this whole Kim dynasty, Kim
Mhm.
Sun-young and Kim Da-eun and the Fist, and that they were just a small part of it, that this whole philosophy of the Way of the Fist is so much greater than we ever knew about. And so now that they've defeated John Kreese, they've defeated Terry Silver, we think.
Right.
Now they have to take down this whole philosophy that something has to happen that makes them realize that the Way of the Fist is truly not going away. Cobra Kai is really never dying. We need to do something to take this down once and for all. What better way than on the world stage?
Right. Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting that you bring up this distinction between Cobra Kai, which is what Terry and Kreese founded, and the Way of the Fist, which is something bigger, which is something that is directly related to what Kim Da-eun cares about, which is the legacy of her grandfather. And that's bigger than Cobra Kai.
She never says Cobra Kai. You never hear her say the words Cobra Kai. She says the Way of the Fist is like this. The Way of the Fist is not that. She's talking about the bigger concept.
Yes. That's which, if you think about it, that could be an interesting tension going forward. Especially if, I don't know, who's a refugee, who's in prison, who's running the show, and how are they going to run it? And, that's a really great question. I love that. Reluctify Streams. What's up, Ken and Wisdom? What's up, Reluctify Streams? Hey. And Nerd World. Hello. Christian Crow, an amazing talent, musical talent, and he puts together these amazing edits and cuts of trailers. When we were waiting for Cobra Kai season 4, months before they released the official trailer, he came up with this trailer that just, I don't know, it quenched our thirst. We needed to see that. And it got us all psyched for season 4 of Cobra Kai. And he's done so much other great stuff too. He says he 100% agrees with Wisdom. It is the conclusion of the legacy of the character's story. It's Daniel and Johnny's swan song, which is why I feel it's deserving that season 6 ends with a sensei's division in the Sekai Taikai. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I agree. I think, we've seen 2 tournaments now with just the young cast. We got to do something different. We got to mix it up. And this is Johnny's story. This is Johnny and Daniel's story. Depending on which side you fall on, you say it's either Johnny's story, the show starts with Johnny, or you could say it's Johnny and Daniel's story. They have to be part of the ending somehow.
Right.
And maybe part of this tournament. We've now seen Daniel have his grand ending, crane kicking Terry Silver in the face, if you want to call that his epic conclusion. I don't see how he could do something greater than that from his story. We now need to let Johnny have his happy ending finally. Let him get the big win on the tournament for everyone to see. Who it's against, no idea. But if Johnny Lawrence is in the final match of Cobra Kai, the show, from where he started at the very beginning of the pilot episode, that's the ultimate conclusion. Johnny getting his moment.
I love that. And it's so easy with the series because there's so many characters. The story has taken so many twists and turns. It's easy to kind of maybe lose sight of the fact that it started with Johnny, and it really, it needs to end with Johnny. Like this is his story at the end of the day. And I'm excited for all of your thoughts on that. And I can't wait to see what happens. Okay, everyone. We'll definitely get into talking about more ideas of what could happen in season 6. However, we do have some news. We do want to talk about the spinoff ideas that may be confirmed, maybe not. We're going to get to that, but let's talk a bit about some news.
KenCast news.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so the number one news that I want to get out to anyone who's in kind of my hometown of Boston right now, Ralph Macchio today is at Boston College, and he's going to be doing something that's going to start, I believe, at 5 p.m. So if you're in the area, if you're in the immediate area, you've got maybe a couple hours, less than a couple hours, if you want to get over there. But he's going to be doing things. I think he's going to be speaking and signing things. It's going to be really cool. So if you're in the Boston area, definitely go check it out. That should be a lot of fun. Let's see what now. Ooh, Save Silver. Okay. Yes. Mike, we need to talk about Save Silver and push it. I want to bring up the fact that you and I actually were in Washington, D.C.
Oh, look at them.
Yes. Two handsome guys right there. We're working. Seriously, we were sitting down for a casual business strategy session, steps away from the White House. Of course, you're plugged into, the highest levels of the U.S. government. We are working on Terry Silver's behalf, and we've come up with a multi-pronged strategy that's still being enacted to try and help Terry Silver get out of custody. And I want to play the newest advertisement, or we call it messaging. Maybe it's called a public service announcement, supporting the Save Silver movement. And so we'll play that for you now, and we'll talk about Save Silver on the flip side.
In times of crisis, great men rise to lead America. Men like Abraham Lincoln, George S. Patton, and Ronald Reagan. Another great man is Terrence Silver. A decorated war veteran, Terrence Silver has spent his life saving the environment, funding education, and creating jobs across the globe. Unfortunately, the enemies of freedom want to silence Silver and frame him for bogus crimes. We must not let that happen. Now is the time for all good citizens to stand up and save Silver. Call your representatives today and tell them to save Silver. Paid for by Cole Associates for a Free America. Show your support for the Save Silver movement with limited edition custom merchandise now available for purchase. Together, we can save Silver.
Oh man, Mike, I get a tear in my eye every time I see that. Yeah, he's such a hero, isn't he?
That was, when I first saw that was absolute brilliance. I loved every second of that. I mean, why you don't live here in DC with me is beyond me at this point, but we'll talk about that because you have a future in this.
Well, thank you. And, I'd just like to point out, it's not just me. It's the Cole Associates for Free America. It's a group, a like-minded group, that I know you're familiar with. But thank you very much. And maybe we can make waves and change America. But
Do it.
I want to draw people's attention to the fact that Mike was on here before. Maybe we'll have to have him on here again to talk specifically about how Terry Silver's not guilty. He's not perfect. But I mean, if you look at the grand scheme of things, other people committed crimes that dwarfed whatever Terry Silver was supposed to do. And Mike, do you still feel that way? I know that's controversial with some people, but I thought you made a number of great points.
Well, there's a lot of defenses to be made, hands down. And a man like Terry Silver, for one reason or another, is not going to go down without a fight. And if there is a defense to be made, he's going to do so. He and his team, are working behind the scenes every day. And I'm here in Washington talking to important people, having meetings, and it's going to be a fight. There's a Sekai Taikai tournament coming up, and Sensei Silver will be there. Don't you worry.
Ooh, I like it. Oh, Mike called it. It's going to happen. And yes, I agree with you. Like, it seems like Terry's far too influential and too rich to get a little kind of local cop custody situation. I mean, that's just not going to phase a guy like Terry Silver.
He's going to have his own podcast, wrongfully accused, and he's going to be bigger and badder than ever.
Yes, I totally agree. Terry Johnson, #Save Silver, 100% agree. So thank you guys. We want to push Save Silver. Also in news tomorrow. Okay, this is kind of crazy. I'll be on the Cobra Kai Companion podcast. I'm sorry, not Cobra Kai Companion. Sorry, Cobra Kai Kid. He's going to be doing a live stream, and we're going to be writing season 6 with your help. So what we're going to do, like, they have their official writer's room. We're going to sit down. We're going to look at everything, and we are going to come up with a story for season 6. It's kind of crazy, but we're going to do it, and we're going to do it with your help. So head on over to the Cobra Kai Kid channel tomorrow and join us. It should be a lot of fun. And then one other bit of news. Yes, Tom Cole. Of course, my name's Ken Cole. Tom Cole, the character in Cobra Kai, David Shatraw, will be here live for a discussion next week on Saturday at noon. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be sending out kind of posts on YouTube and Twitter. If you have questions that you want to ask David Shatraw, who plays Tom Cole, definitely do it. He is an absolutely fun guy. I got to work with him on Cobra Cole, but he does such an amazing job on Cobra Kai as Tom Cole, Daniel's dealership nemesis. So keep it tuned here next Saturday at noon. So Mike, that kind of wraps up our news. And but now I know everyone is wondering what is going on with spinoffs. Like, what's going on? Did they announce spinoffs? And if you don't mind, let's get into our discussion.
KenCast discussion.
Okay, Mike. So this is kind of the hot topic for today. We got somewhere. There was an interview, okay, with the new president of Sony Television Studios. And she really talked about a few things publicly. And I want to bring up this Deadline article and go and read a few sections from this because it's a nice article. You guys should check it out. This is Katherine Pope. She has been president of Sony TV Studios since the summertime. And she's talking about everything that is on schedule, her kind of philosophy, her vision, what she's excited about. And they do talk about Cobra Kai. So let me go down to, actually, let me go back up. She talks about it in two different, okay, so here's a question. What is some of your favorite Sony IP, intellectual property, titles that you either would like to tackle as an executive or you just enjoy as a fan? And then in the second paragraph down here, she says, I've been able to spend some time with the Cobra Kai guys since I got here. I knew Josh Heald a little bit beforehand, and they walked me through the process of how they made that show. Everyone can talk about how popular and successful it is, but the process by which they use the original movie footage in the show is so unique. They use deleted scenes, they use different angles. They talk about it as, in another show, it would be flashbacks. For them, the movie is the flashbacks. And it's just a brilliant way to think about it. I don't know if people call Cobra Kai reboot, but it's an extension of that universe in a way that's so crafted and so smart. Okay, that's number one. And let's go down, and she talks a little bit more. They ask the question, most long-running series like The Blacklist, The Goldbergs, The Good Doctor, The Boys, and Outlander have had offshoots, but not Cobra Kai. There's a new Karate Kid movie. Is this how that universe is expanding, straddling film and TV, or could there be more Cobra Kai shows? And she responds, they have some ideas, meaning the big three, in terms of expanding Cobra Kai and coming at the Karate Kid legacy in different ways. But yes, the movie is a good example too. It's all of these. I think we've all learned these worlds can exist together and they can feel cohesive and they can feel additive, especially for the fans. And I feel like big worlds that exist on lots of different levels, they don't necessarily all exist in the same plane. Audiences are so savvy now and accepting multiple levels of the IP, so the Cobra Kai universe lives on, that's for sure. Okay, so that's what she said straight from her mouth about Cobra Kai and the idea of spinoffs. I mean, and she does specifically talk about they have some ideas in terms of expanding Cobra Kai and coming at the Karate Kid legacy in different ways. So, Mike, you've just read all of this. What is your sense after kind of listening to what she has to say? Do you think that this is pretty much a confirmation, even a soft confirmation, that we'll definitely be getting Cobra Kai spinoff series?
It seems to be. And if Cobra Kai season 6 is as huge as we think it's going to be, that's only going to bolster that idea that this is not only a great show that we love, but it's a successful show that any streaming service like Netflix and Sony would be insane not to utilize and explore further. I think the big three themselves have always been open to the idea. I mean, they're open to anything. They're what I love about them is they don't say no to any ideas. Oh, we'll never do that. They've always been open to the ideas that when and if Cobra Kai, the show, ever comes to an end, that we can explore further stories. They've now created this Miyagi-verse, and it can be their own Marvel universe, which has all different types of stories. They've created this. And so they've always explored that issue, and we're open to it. And then I think actually when the big three sent their letter out to the fans in January, which was talking about season 6 and the show being over, towards the end of that letter was also this open window that, the show's ending, but that doesn't mean it's all over, that there's other stories to be told. So they love this universe. They love these characters. They love all of it. So if they have more stories to tell and they have someone in charge at Sony who will let them tell it, I think, yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Do you think it's weird that this is going to be the last season of Cobra Kai, that there isn't maybe more of an overlap? Like they already don't have another spinoff running right now while Cobra Kai is still popular? Or do you think that even matters?
I don't think it matters. And what I don't like is when shows are used to promote future shows. We've been talking about Star Wars, so I will use that as an example. I know The Mandalorian is a huge show. I've watched it. I enjoy it. But one thing I did not like about the last season is that so many of the episodes were dedicated to promoting other shows. There was a whole episode with Boba Fett. And at the end, coming soon, the Boba Fett show. There was a whole episode of the character Ahsoka. At the end, coming soon, the Ahsoka show. I don't want that. I want Cobra Kai to be about Cobra Kai. If there's a character in season 6 of Cobra Kai and that becomes a spinoff, fine. But I don't want the purpose of our final season of our show to be promoting other shows that may or may not be coming in the future. Let Cobra Kai be Cobra Kai. People will remember it, especially if they're talking spinoffs in the next year or two. They're going to remember the show. They remembered Karate Kid from 35 years ago, and it was still a hit. So let this show be its show. Let it have its conclusion. The big three can focus on other things for a little bit, Obliterated, the Ferris Bueller Project, whatever else they're working on, and then come up with a real good, solid, okay, what's next in the Miyagi-verse? I don't think they're doing both at the same time right now. I think they're focused on season 6. Let that begin, let that finish, then we'll worry about what's next. But I'm sure they have ideas that they've probably been floating around since they were kids.
Mm-hmm. One other thing that she mentions in this, and I know it's been controversial, is this new mysterious Karate Kid movie that the big three and even Ralph Macchio and the people involved in Cobra Kai, no one seems to know about or have any involvement with, but Sony's announced that this will be a movie, like they're making a new Karate Kid movie. Does that make you feel weird? Like, as far as like, there's this big universe, but it seems like John, Josh, and Hayden don't know much about it, or do you view that as separate? I don't know. How do you feel about them sort of like announcing this? And do you have confidence kind of in the cohesiveness of the Miyagi-verse going forward?
Yeah, that's the kind of outlier over there when that was announced and they said it's not part of the Miyagi-verse story. It's something different. I think everyone's reaction was like, oh, it's 2010 again. It's just another story and they're using the Karate Kid name, which is what the 2010 movie was. I saw that movie. I did not think it was a bad movie. I like Jackie Chan. It just had no business being called The Karate Kid. And if it had a different title and you were to ask me about that, I'd say it was a good movie.
Right.
Maybe this new thing is going to be good as well. I have no idea. But if it's not part of our story, I do have a problem with them calling it The Karate Kid just to bring people through the door. So if it's truly not part of our story or even related to it, if it's not in the same universe, call it something else, let it breathe on its own, have its own legs, and do that. But even if they do go that route and they call it The Karate Kid and it's just it's another reboot, I don't think that would have any impact on spin-offs of our show. I think people can recognize, okay, that's different. This is a spinoff of Cobra Kai, which I love. Let's move forward and focus on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. Well said, Mike. I want to thank Clifford Favors. Thank you so much for the super chat. Help support the channel. Thanks, Clifford. He says, I think Julie Pierce is the one who saves Tori and her brother from her aunt. I think Ava Garcia will be called as a character witness to Silver's trial.
Ava Garcia.
Well, thank you, Clifford. And it's really interesting to think about all the possibilities. Of course, we do have this character, Julie Pierce, played by Hilary Swank, part of the next Karate Kid. We have not seen her yet in the Cobra Kai series. She is in the Miyagi-verse. She exists. And so she could very well appear in Cobra Kai going forward. Do you see them? I know Hilary Swank has worked with Netflix on a number of different projects. Do you think it's possible there could be a Cobra Kai spinoff starring Hilary Swank as Julie Pierce?
That's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about that. I think if she comes back in season 6, and I hope she does, the possibility exists. And who would have thought we'd have a whole new show starring the star of the next Karate Kid? I don't know, but I like the character. She's the only other known living student of Mr. Miyagi. I think she and Daniel have to know each other. And she is part of this world. So whether she's the star of the new show or she's part of it, sure. If the engine behind the big three and all their writers is behind it, truly you can make just about anything work.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Ben Urban, thank you, Ben, for your comment. He's really talking about what a lot of people are thinking. He's saying the decision to pull the plug with season 6 sounds like it was completely a Netflix decision, as the big three have said before that they have at least 8 seasons worth of material to work with. And I know that, I think people have the sense, Mike, that there's how, say, the creators really feel, and then there's what Netflix or Sony was able to bankroll and budget. And they have to come together publicly and say, yes, this is a good thing. This is what we wanted. And I think a lot of people are thinking behind the scenes, they wish they could have gone another 2 or 3 seasons, not just at season 6. And that this is really Netflix's doing. They're kind of said, no, we're only giving you money for one more season. And so the big three are making the best of it. And that's kind of the real story that no one's talking about. I don't know. What's your reaction to that sentiment?
I'm sure there's some truth to it. I don't think there was a conversation that took place where the big three said, okay, we're done. One more season and that's it. We're out of here. Right. Obviously, they wanted to tell this story. And I think the discussions that were had were that we want to tell the conclusion of our story. That's been our dream since day one. That's why we left YouTube and came to Netflix, so that we would get to finish our story. And the trade-off was, okay, go write the last chapter of your story. It's going to be one more season. So yeah, I'm sure there were some discussions to be had. We're never going to know the truth. It's never going to come out what went on behind the scenes. That's just never going to be in the cards for us. But yes, I am sure Netflix to some extent played some part in it, and that was the deal. Okay, you will throw everything at this season, all the money, anything you want, make it the most epic conclusion possible, but it will be the conclusion, and that's how the show will end. That's how it works sometimes.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's possible, and not many people have talked about this, that Netflix came back and said, okay, we'll do another season, but we can't say for sure whether we'd renew after that. So we'll do another one, but we don't know for sure if we'll come back for season 7. And then at that point, they may have said, something, if it's going to be up in the air like that, we're going to end it on our terms. We don't want to have it kind of hanging. Is that?
Yeah. And I think that was the message of the Big Three's letter to us, was that it's been our goal to tell our story on our terms. They've always said that we don't know how many seasons we have in mind. They've never known that for sure, because that's not always in their hands, but they know the story they want to tell, and they know how that story is going to end. So yeah, if that was the trade-off, again, that was the decision that they were probably a part of. Okay, let's go tell our conclusion. And that also leaves them to have that freedom to now have it be the conclusion, instead of, okay, we're going to have this huge tournament, And if it's not the series finale, then it's got to have some type of cliffhanger. It can't be fully done. So what comes next, and how much are we going to leave open in case there's no season 7?
Right. Now, of course, we're focused on Cobra Kai, but at the same time, as we saw, we probably have some spinoffs to look forward to. And Mike, I wanted to get your thoughts. Do you have a favorite idea, something that you would like to see as a basis for a spinoff show?
I love the young Miyagi idea. I really do. It's the only character that is explored in Cobra Kai, but isn't actually in Cobra Kai because Pat Morita is no longer with us. And it just leads to so many different options over in a long period of time, because Mr. Miyagi was alive for such a long time, even before The Karate Kid came out in 1984. And there are just so many different possibilities. We're talking purely about adult Miyagi, wartime, but he was alive for 40 years between the war and 1984 during The Karate Kid. You could have like kind of like the old Kung Fu show, where you have adult Miyagi during wartime, and then he flashes back. You could have multiple actors playing Mr. Miyagi. You have a young Miyagi when he's training with his father and young Sato, and he flashes back to the wisdom he learned from his father and applies it now as an adult. You could have, what you could have? You could have a true Miyagi story, that it not just be about Mr. Miyagi. If you remember that Robert Mark Kamen, his true original idea for The Karate Kid Part 3 was to tell the story of the Miyagi dynasty, Shimpo Sensei, the old Miyagis. You could have that be part of it. You have part of the story be about Mr. Miyagi as a young adult, but instead of flashing back to himself as a kid, flashing back to Shimpo Sensei, and see the two journeys parallel, and truly have a 600 years worth of a story. You've got this whole Miyagi dynasty. It's not just one person. And that could go absolutely everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I love that idea because, yeah, you're right. That's something that Robert Mark Kamen for Karate Kid 3 was really interested in doing. And John Alvinson, the director, he wanted to do that too. But, they said, of course they wanted a sequel. I can understand at the time. It's like, oh, guys, like people want Daniel and Miyagi, but I love the idea. It's actually wonderful. And you guys have some ideas too. Josh says the Agora Furniture Store TV series with Mike Barnes and the father of his wife, Tim Allen. Oh my gosh. That's funny.
I love it.
That's great. Robana, thanks for being a channel member. Robana says, I think Dugan will most likely be Team Kreese and not Team Terry. I love the fact, Robana, that you are bringing in Dugan and assuming he's going to be in there. I would love to see Michael Ironside back. I know that the characters are a little more controversial in the next Karate Kid, but man, Michael Ironside, just an amazing actor. And Edit says Mike in Karate Kid 3 is greater than Johnny in Karate Kid 1. Ooh. And that's now fighting wise. Yeah, I think you could be right. I made a case that maybe Mike Barnes was the most skilled of all of Daniel's teen antagonists. Now, this is another thing, Josh. I think Hilary Swank will not film this year because of her baby. And Christian Crow, who was on here, actually has some detailed thoughts on this. And he thinks that's nothing to worry about. And I know that Peter last week from Cobra Kai Companion Podcast also brought up the fact that, guys, like whenever the shooting schedule is, like if it's over the summer, like starting in late spring and going into summer this year for season 6, even if the official shooting is done for season 6, they can still go back later and do some shooting like they did in the Okinawa sequences for season 3. That was after the main shoot. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this is a factor in whether Hilary Swank's going to come back, Mike?
I don't. I believe, I'm not in the room with her, but I believe she is due to have her babies in the spring, like around April, May. And I also believe that season 6 is not even geared to start production until the summer. So right. Yeah, absolutely. If she comes back for season 6, I don't believe she's going to be in 10 episodes. I think she's going to have more of an appearance like Allie did in season 3, like a special cameo, 1, maybe 2 episodes, 1.5. And something like that, you could truly film at any time. I believe she actually filmed after they were technically done with production. They brought her back at the end. And same with season 3. Then they did Okinawa at the end. All of the Okinawa scenes was all filmed after production ended. So even if her scene is supposed to be in episode 3, they could film that in September. And the point being is if they want her to do it and she's game for it, which I think she said she was open to, because she said she gets asked about that more than anything else. When are you going to come back for Cobra Kai? They'll figure out a way to make it happen.
Right. I know. And that's the other thing, guys. Like, she went on multiple TV shows and talked about this and said exactly what you said, Mike, about her being, this is the number one question she's asked. And I don't think she would be bringing that up publicly on news shows and TV shows if she weren't open to coming back, because she wouldn't want to publicize that, you know? So I think you're right. I think she's open to coming back, and they will make it happen. I mean, it's Hilary Swank. I mean, she's just an incredible actress. Academy Award-winning actress who's part of this universe. So just fantastic. Tigterrysilverrocks, thank you for your comment. Season 6 could be done in 2 parts. This is a very popular thought, to make sure every story has its conclusion. What do you think? Would they do a Stranger Things on this, or an Ozark, or Breaking Bad season 5, do you think, Mike, where they split season 6 into 2 parts?
I recognize it's a possibility because Netflix seems to like doing that. I am personally not a fan. If you're going to tell a season, tell a season. Don't split up the season. Otherwise, it's 2 seasons, or literally leave a season hanging midway. I'm not a big fan of that. If you have a season ready to go, just drop the season. But I agree what you said, that there are a lot of storylines and things to wrap up. So in terms of the epicness of this season, the possibility of us maybe getting 12 episodes, of each episode being 45 minutes instead of just the finale being 45 minutes, is absolutely possible. And I think one of the words that Hayden's been using is the word big. It's going to be big. What do you think big means? He said, season 6 is going to be like Thanksgiving. It's just going to be bigger. I think that's what part of it might mean, literally bigger. It is a bigger season, longer episodes and more episodes, to truly make this the epic finale that it deserves to be.
Right. And you know what is a staple of Thanksgiving is family. Seeing people there that you don't see the rest of the year. And so maybe we're going to see people that we haven't seen yet because it's Thanksgiving. It's like the big holiday. Legacy characters. You had a great image, Mike, where what was it? Was it today where you said something along the lines of you don't know any other Cobra Kais that are going to cause trouble, do you? And then you put up a graphic from the original Karate Kid with LaRusso and Dutch.
And Dutch. Yeah, he's the only OG who hasn't been seen. And that's so far been a personal choice of the actor Chad McQueen, that Lord knows they've tried. But I think they're going to keep pushing it. And if there's any way they can convince him just to come on, even if it's for the briefest of cameos, shot from prison, Dutch in prison, watching the Sekai Taikai on the TV, they will make that happen. So it's the opportunity. Bring back Bobby, Jimmy. I know Peter mentioned letting Kenny and Sean finally have a moment together. Sean finally gets out of juvie. I'd love to see that, him cheering on his little brother. You got to bring back Allie. You just have to. Again, even if it's for the shortest of moments, you got to bring back Kumiko. She's going to have whatever she's going to have with Chosen. Anyone who is connected to this in any way, the Karate Kid trilogy, the show, is going to be in this season. That is one of my predictions. Whether it's big or small, or even just a slight cameo during a montage at the end, they're all coming back.
So right. And that you're saying that might not just apply to the legacy characters. That might apply to every character of note throughout the entire series. We might see them again, at least once, maybe. Yes.
Give a nod to everyone. Aisha, we're led to believe that she's done, but let her come back for a brief moment as well.
Yeah.
Just to give a nod to everyone who was involved in this story.
I love it. That's wonderful. That's great. Talking Star Wars. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it for supporting the channel. we better hear, quote, "You're the best around" at the tournament or fans will be furious. And Mike, I have to think that they have been purposely not using that song yet. They wanted to save it for the finale because it's such a famous song. It's such a big song. Do you think that's do you think we're going to hear it?
100%. This is one of the things that, I never say this is what's going to happen or they have to do this. They don't have to do anything, but they have to do this. It's the only song that has not been played yet. I know some people were surprised it didn't happen in season 4 tournament, that they chose the moment of truth. Yes, exactly what you said. They've been saving this for the right moment. That's another reason. Can you imagine if the show was canceled and they never got the chance to play You're the Best Around in frickin' Cobra Kai?
Right.
This is now the final season, the world tournament, when all our young actors come out to a new montage to You're the Best Around. I mean, the goosebumps and the chills are going to be epic. It's just going to be a great, great scene. And that's just going to be like their finale moment, that montage coming back and that song coming back. And I think it should be the original song. That was actually something I had asked on my page. Like, when they bring the song back, should they do the original? Should they try something new like they did with The Moment of Truth or with Cruel Summer and Carrie Kimmel? And the overwhelming response was, no, don't mess with the original. We need Joe Esposito. And I agree completely. You got to play that song that way in a new setting.
Okay. So here's my follow-up question to that. I have now seen Joe Esposito. I've seen him perform You're the Best Around live twice at like 2 different events. So do you think when they play the song, will they bring Joe Esposito in to sing in the show live like they did Carrie Underwood? Or do you think it's going to be just in the background?
I think it'll be in the background. I don't know if they know who Joe Esposito is or if he exists in the Miyagi-verse. I don't know. But whether it's him re-recording it, a newer version himself, or just using the original track, they did spice it up. They did something with the Legacy trailer. I'm remembering before Cobra Kai started on Netflix. It was his song, but they did something to it. Something like that I'd be okay with. But, let's keep it what it is. This is the song we've been waiting for and that everyone's been waiting for. It's just finally going to get its moment.
Indeed. And people are coming up with some interesting ideas. Like Hall of the Cobra says, Julie Pierce needs to fight Kim. That's been a very popular sentiment. And then Robana says maybe Kim and Julie have a past. And, we talk about that happening in the Cobra Kai series. Could this be sort of a basis for a spinoff series that features Julie Pierce and maybe her nemesis is Kim Daeun? I don't know. Is that too out there? I don't know.
At this point, nothing is too out there. I love the character of Sensei Kim. So if she's the focus on a spinoff series, I'll be first in line. I think that's fantastic. But I love the concept. I think it makes logical sense. She was really the only character, the only sensei that didn't get her epic fight. I mean, she was fighting Tori and Devin at the end, and she completely outmatches them. So for her to finally get her final matchup against Julie Pierce, Kim versus Miyagi, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And Call of the Cobra says no Dutch. And that's true that so far, he said no. But I think, as Mike, I think you were saying before, and I'm kind of hoping is that, maybe he said no 2 or 3 years ago. But if you go back to him now, maybe he's like, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do it. It's like the last season, everyone's involved. Maybe I'll do it. So I hope so. I hope Chad McQueen will somehow decide to be part of the series.
They'll try. They'll get, Rob Thomas and Billy will call him, all his old buddies, and like, hey, come on, man. Come on back one more time.
Oh, and we've got Strike First Media, Cody. Hello, Cody.
What's up,
Great
Cody?
to see you. How you doing? He says, what's up, guys? I agree with what you said. Just said, Mike, the covers have been great, but if there's one where you got to keep the OG song, that's the one. Yeah.
You just got it. It's too classic a song. And I've heard other versions and they're fine, but this is just one you can't change and you can't touch. It's got to be that song.
Yes. 100%. Thanks for dropping by, Cody. It's good to see you, and congratulations. You hit a great milestone today as well.
Yeah, congrats.
Congratulations. Vincent says, honestly, I just want to see what Neg or Dugan's been up to. It's the last season. Yeah. I know they're such interesting characters. I hope we do. Here's the problem though, Mike, right? It's the fact that the show is big. We've got lots of characters. There's a lot of story going on that we're going to have to wrap up. And if we're going to bring back these characters, there has to be a reason they fit in to the story at this point. And I don't know, is that a challenge trying to figure out a way to get Ned or Dugan into the story now that's been careening forward?
Yeah, I think that's maybe one bit of a stretch. That if you're going to bring something back from the next Karate Kid, it will be Julie Pierce, and that's probably it. I don't think the monks are coming back. I don't think Ned's coming back. Walton Goggins, any of those old guys.
Right.
That's just a completely different story. So, and that would be, like you said, real hard to start and end in one season.
Right.
If it was going beyond season 6, maybe a new conflict, but this is the story of Cobra Kai.
Exactly. And I've put out a video recently and a while ago, a year or two ago, about did Kreese and Terry know Dugan in Vietnam? Was he actually, have we already seen the character in the POW flashbacks? And I kind of make a case that one of the characters there, it could have been a young Dugan. And I think if that's the case, that would be an easier way to bring Dugan in if they kind of already know each other, if he's already connected to John Kreese. Otherwise, it's going to be, I think, pretty difficult, because you'd have to build up his connection to people through a character we haven't even seen yet. No one's interacted with Dugan aside from Julie Pierce, and we haven't seen her in the show yet. And Mr. Miyagi, obviously, but he's passed away. Yeah. Daniel may have heard about Dugan, probably, but yeah, I think he would need to have a pre-existing connection to one of the characters for him to come back. That's just my thought.
We've had Cobra Kai, so let one of the spinoffs be Alpha League. You know, Ned comes back and he starts the Alpha League up again, and then we go start all over again.
That would be fun. All right. Christian says, Hayden once replied to a tweet of mine when I wrote out, "Please have your the best around play at the All Valley season 4." Hayden tweeted, "Trust me, we know what that song means to the fans." Yeah, they know,
and it means it to them too, because they're the biggest fans of all of us. So
yes,
this is a good thing. This is another reason that it's a good thing that they know now, before they've written a word, that this is going to be the finale. They know what they need to include, what they need to tie up, and that's a big part of it.
Yes, indeed. Talking about spin-offs, Zaround says a young Miyagi prequel could be epic and include things we learned from the movies, especially the falling out with Sato in Karate Kid 2, which is exactly right. Mike, you were talking about, you could do that young Miyagi series where you have flashbacks, where you have multiple actors playing Miyagi in that series, and you can see different parts of his life. So you could see maybe the falling out with Sato. You could see their relationship. Wouldn't that be interesting? Yeah, there's so many possibilities. Now, Ben says something kind of like that, maybe I suspect, maybe, is that Dugan may give Kreese asylum while he's on the lam. And that is something that's up in the air right now. Where does Kreese go? What does he do? I mean, he's kind of a fugitive right now. So who does he go to for help? Does he just leave the country? Does he follow Kim Da-eun and just leave the United States? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's escaped from prison, but he's also been proved innocent of the crime he was convicted for. So it's a little unclear. He may just be exonerated because they realized that it was Terry all along. But indeed, I don't know.
But it's tough though, because what he did was, if he had just waited, he could have been exonerated. But now he's gone ahead and assaulted the doctor and, you know, the guards, which that has to be a crime, right, in and of itself.
I think so. And I think some type of overseas discussion, them leaving the country, is going to be part of the discussion here. Clearly, there is some connection between Kreese and Sensei Kim. They knew each other when she was a child. He winked at her, she was disappointed when she came to America and Kreese wasn't there. So I think she may be his lifeboat when he's looking for something to get out of there.
Yes, I love that. That's a great thought. Vincent says we may see Silver again, even if it's just a small appearance. I want to think his story is done, but he's too big a character. To me, I think that we're going to see Terry Silver again. Like, I think he's definitely going to be a factor. Like, he's too big a character, and I don't know. It's possible that we might not see him initially, but I would think he'd be back in a big way, especially if it's the Sekai Taikai. You know, that's his idea. Like, that's his baby. And, you know, he loves control. I don't know. What do you think, Mike? Are we going to see Terry again?
Yes. I don't see how you can have the final season of Cobra Kai without Terry Silver in it. But I do think he's going to sort of play a similar role to what Kreese had in season 5. Maybe he's not in the first half at all, and you're meant to kind of forget about him. Right. And then all of a sudden he shows up and it's like, oh yeah, you. It's like, I'm not dead. I'm not in prison. I'm here. And then you find out what happened to him. So I absolutely do not think we have seen the last of Terry Silver, and I don't see how you can have a last season without him.
Yeah, I agree. Even if I weren't such a big Terry fan, he's just too large a presence in this show, and there are too many questions. Like, you can't have such a rich guy. It's like having a billionaire being arrested. If Jeff Bezos is arrested, is he going to do any jail time? I mean, you know, his lawyers are too good. He has too much money. You know, I think it'll be easy for Terry to get out of that situation based on, as Mike has said before, the very flimsy case that they probably have legally against Terry Silver.
Star Witness 1 Stingray? I don't think so.
No, not at all. Let's see. Yeah, Dislike Bomb says Kreese would get arrested for his violent actions. Call the Cobra wants Terry Silver versus Mike. I know a lot of people have been kind of wanting that to happen.
Yeah, that's another question mark. To what extent or if Mike Barnes will return in season 6, I don't know about. Again, on one hand, I'm like, how can you have a series finale without Mike Barnes in there somewhere? On the other hand, like, what purpose would he serve? He's not part of Cobra Kai. He's not part of Miyagi Fang. His storyline has kind of run its course. So I don't know. Maybe he can be one of those characters that does have a smaller return, but gets another head nod.
Right. So you're saying he kind of got involved in this story just by sort of a misperception from Daniel LaRusso.
Yeah.
And he kind of got wrapped into it. His furniture store got burned, but he got his Rembrandt. And so he's kind of resolved. And so, you know, how do you bring him back into it? Like, I guess he'd have to want to get back into martial arts, right? He'd have to be like, hey, I'll help you guys. Or maybe, you know, Daniel and Johnny are like, hey, why don't we have Mike Barnes help us? Or Ander, who's a channel member who was on last week, he has a theory that Mike Barnes isn't really as good or clean as we think he is, and that maybe to some degree he has already or may work with Terry Silver in the future. Because some of those things seemed a bit suspicious as well.
I don't know, a heel turn from Mike Barnes. Love to see some of the old school bad boy. Wouldn't hate
Indeed.
that.
Yes, 100%. Max Kelly says, do y'all think Jerry should be in Cobra Kai? Let's see. Who's Jerry?
Jerry, I don't know.
Let
us know who Jerry is.
Yeah, let us know who Jerry is.
If you meant Freddie, I think it needs to come back. Bring back some Fernandez.
Yes. And I'd love to see Dennis back somehow. I don't know how, but William Christopher Ford. I would love to see Daryl Vidal. Love to see him back somehow.
You got to bring him back. I mean, for a tournament, a karate tournament, he's been mentioned so many times in the show. Yeah, bring him back. Bring them all back. Just bring everybody back.
Yes. Christian Crow, thank you, Christian. Thanks for the fans. You two are awesome. Do you guys think Silver? You're awesome, Christian. Do you guys think Silver will ever see the inside of a prison cell in season 6, or will his lawyer prevent it for him? I don't know. I will say this. I will be with Cobra Kai Kid. We will be writing season 6. So maybe we'll come up with some ideas there. My sense right now, though, is that kind of like what Mike was saying, maybe we'll be led to believe he's in custody or he's been taken care of, and maybe he would lie low for a bit. But I don't think he would seriously have any legal repercussions from that. Like, I think it would be too easy for him to get out of that and be exonerated immediately. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, they're snakes. I mean, we've seen him in a hot tub talking about bribing the DA. He knows how to work the system. But I agree that I think it's going to be more behind the scenes, that we're led to assume, oh, we finally took care of him. And then when you least expect it, at the worst possible time, he comes back.
Right. Indeed. Let's see. Sebastian says Jerry was a minor character in Karate Kid Part 1. Now, gosh, I'm trying to remember who.
Okay.
Who was Jerry?
You've stumped us.
Was that Freddie's friend? I don't know. Tell us maybe what scene Jerry is in.
I don't know. I'd like to see Allie's friends come back.
Yeah.
Bring them back. They're fantastic. I don't know how. Maybe they're all sitting on the couch together, the three ladies watching the tournament on TV, watching Johnny and Daniel. Doesn't have to be big, but just bring them all back. If they want to come back, bring them back.
Right. Now, everyone just assumes the Sakai Taikai is going to be like the big thing. And I agree. That seems to be where things are going. But to me, it seems like all dojos, whether it's like Miyagi, Fang, or Cobra Kai, at the end of season 5, were embroiled in some very unsportsmanlike and scandalous conduct. Like, things went down that shouldn't go down. Look at that brawl that happened inside the Cobra Kai dojo. I would think if I were on the committee, I'd go, wait a second, guys. I just don't think you're at the sportsmanship level to compete in the Sakai Taikai. Look at what's happened. Look at what happened to your Terry Silver was brought into custody. You had your other sensei, Kim Da-eun, fighting in a brawl with students. You had on camera probably Daniel LaRusso fighting the other sensei. Like, this is just very bad, unsportsmanlike conduct. And why should we consider you to compete? I don't know. To me, don't you think that there's some questionable conduct that's happened?
Look, it's a whole season. The tournament is just going to be 1 or maybe 2 episodes. So I think that's certainly going to be a part of it. I think one of the questions, actually Drew Cobra Kai Kid brought this up, is first of all, why? Why even enter the tournament? The whole purpose of getting involved in it in the first place was to stop Terry Silver. They've done that. So why do they need more fighting and more tournaments? And like I said, I think something has to happen for them to spark we need to do this. The way of the fist is not done. I think something bad has to happen, frankly. Someone gets hurt, that they realize, okay, this is not over yet. We need to be part of this tournament and the way of the fist once and for all. But that may be a struggle, that now the committee has a problem with these dojos entering. Okay, Silver, he's out of the picture. All the Cobra Kai students are seemingly no part of Cobra Kai. It's going to be completely different. I think them all getting involved back in the tournament could possibly one of the storylines before they actually get there.
Yes, 100%. Sorry, I hit that by accident, but this is Jerry was a Cobra Kai student in the first movie, but he doesn't have any speaking roles. He was Lamar Luttrell in Revenge of the Nerds. Okay, gotcha. Yes. So he fought Bobby in class in the first movie and got beaten, and he was also in the tournament.
He was in the tournament. Yes. Bring him back.
Yeah, would love to have him back.
I know he actually did some cons before the show, with Billy and Marty, I think. Yeah, sure. Why not? Bring back all the old Cobra Kais.
Yeah, I agree. And, we're talking about all these legacy characters, and Terry Johnson says, I honestly don't want any new characters. Take care of who they already have. And that's the thing. Usually in a long-running series, you definitely want to keep adding new characters to keep things fresh. Although in this series, there's so many characters already introducing new legacy characters. Do they have any room to introduce any major new characters into season 6? I know people have been wondering about the kids, the students. What's going to happen? I'll be honest with you guys. I have an idea of where all this could go, and it's related to something that Mike was talking about, that I've been thinking about, and the reason why all the kids right now would compete in the Sakai Taikai. What's the reason for that? I have an idea. I don't know if I want to share that now, but Mike, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they should introduce new kid characters or new characters in general, or just kind of focus on the characters we've seen so far?
With the exception of like us bringing back Julie Pierce, and that's really
Right.
bringing someone back. It's not a new character. I agree, but we have a lot of characters now. We have a lot of storylines. This is not season 1 anymore, where it's just
Right.
Johnny and Miguel. We got a lot of things to wrap up, so we can focus on that. But what I think is cool about the concept in terms of the young cast is that now we've been following these kids since day one, since season 1, and now we get to finally root for all of them. They've been going back and forth, good guy, bad guy. You know, Miguel at the end, we weren't liking him too much at the end of season 1. Then Hawk, season 2 and season 3, we weren't liking him too much. We were rooting
Right.
against him. Then season 4, Robbie, who we loved. Now we don't like him so much. He's doing some things. Season 5, it's Kenny's turn. Now he's the Cobra Kai asshole. So there's always been these characters that we've known and we've loved that each get a turn to be the bad guy. And we have to root against them for there to be a story. Now I think we get to root for all of them. Now they're all out of Cobra Kai, and we get to root for all, even Kyler. Kyler is now seemingly done with it. We can have Miguel and Kyler fighting together. Yeah, how great a scene would that be to have them in a fight together to contrast with the pilot episode? And, you know, but then at the same time, though, that begs the question, well, if that's the case, then who are the new bad guys? We got to set something up. They got to have someone to fight. Is it going to be, you know, this new Team Korea or something? I don't think it's just going to be some generic people that we don't know. Who cares if they beat them? They got to set something up. If all of the guys that we know are on the good side now, you got to have some new bad guys. So who's that going to be? So I think they're going to have to do it to some extent to build that up, to build up the conflict. But I think it's going to be focused more on our characters that we've known since season 1.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Marianella says, I think that Terry will not be in prison with all the power he has. Maybe in the 6th season, he will already be out of jail and with his allies, Dennis and Snake, planning their revenge. Yeah, that's fun. I would love to see the old team get back together.
Bring back the Snake. Yes.
Bring back the Snake. One thing that, we've talked about with William Christopher Ford, who's been on the live stream and in an interview, is that as far as we know right now, Jonathan Alvinson, who played Snake, is kind of missing, or he's like, no one knows where he is right now. And so hopefully they'd be able to locate him and he'd be willing to do something like that, because it'd be amazing to get him back as Snake. 100%.
Yeah,
I know
put him
Sony
and Sensei Ford together. Get
Yeah.
Dennis and Snake for one more outing.
Oh yeah, because think about that. Like, yeah, if Kreese wants to get Cobra Kai back, I don't know exactly where Terry will be, but maybe he'll go back to his true old friends to try and get back to his former glory. You never know. Okay, so Mike, I want to kind of, as we kind of wrap up here, I want to get your thoughts on spinoffs. If there are spinoffs, say, I guess number one, do you think there are going to be as potentially spinoff series with characters that we're seeing in the show right now, like maybe the younger characters like Tori or Hawk or or Dimitri or any of these characters? Do you think they will form the subject of a spinoff series? Or it could be the legacy characters, maybe Daniel, Cousin Louie. I don't know. Do you think any of these characters who are in the show right now could form the basis of a spinoff series? And who would you guess that spinoff series would be about?
I'm thinking not, actually. If we're going to have a spinoff series within this Miyagi-verse, I'd like it to still be in the universe, but be focused on some new characters, something we haven't seen before. I get nervous when we take one character that's been part of an ensemble and you put him in his own show or her own show. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does, like you depending on how far back you go. If you remember the show Cheers, you get Frasier. That worked very well. But then years later, you had the show Friends, and they made Joey after it, which absolutely did not work. Even though you love the character, the show just didn't work. So I'm of the mind that we should try something. If we're not going to do the Miyagi verse, the young Miyagi, or if we're doing something else on top of that, do something new. Maybe it's, I don't even know, but a new character, a new storyline, but that is part of the Miyagi verse. Somehow there's a connection, but leaves open the window for a special cameo from Dimitri or Hawk or Robbie or even Johnny or Daniel, that they could come back. But if Cobra Kai is ending, let it end, let that story end, let those characters move on, and we'll introduce something new. But to play the game, if we're going to have a new show starring one of the current characters, gosh, I think Kenny's been such a great character. He's been fleshed out, and he's so young. He hasn't even started his freshman year of high school. His story could have a whole future there. I think a Binary Brothers show would be fantastic.
Yep.
Let Hawk and Dimitri go to college together, trying to balance love lives and karate lives, and building their brand new microchip to save the world. Whatever they're going to be doing could be a lot of fun. And or just something completely different, something in Okinawa, Chosen's continued storyline, Chosen and Kumiko and their future together and their students. Where does that go? You could truly make a story out of any character in this story, because the big three, there's no such thing as really a minor character. Every character has its background, has its story, and has been fleshed out and is so deep and rich. You could truly make a story out of any of them. And that's pretty brilliant after only 5 seasons so far.
Yes, I totally agree. And Nerd World agrees with you, maybe with Chosen Okinawa and his students, and sometimes characters make appearances. Yes, AEH, it's an idea close to my heart. I want a spinoff of a young Silver and Kreese. That could be a lot of fun. Really seeing, because we still haven't seen really how Terry became Terry. How did he go from Terry in Vietnam to Terry that we see in 1985 in Karate Kid 3? There's kind of like a big difference there. How did he get so good? How did he get so wealthy? Like all that stuff. And of course, a while ago, I told Peter this, that I had written kind of therapeutically a series outline based just on Terry Silver, which would be fun. But also, I also would love to see, I know this sounds crazy, and I'm not biased because of the last name, I promise, but I would love a Tom Cole spinoff. And the reason is I love the entire idea of the Coles, like the Cole dynasty in LA, and Willie Cole, and who are they and how are they related to Terry Silver, and like corruption, and be kind of like Succession, that kind of thing. I think would be fun. But but I think you're right. You could really do a spinoff of anyone, and I'm kind of excited as to what they'll come up with. I hope that what the Sony president said is true, Katherine Pope, that it's a universe. There are multiple planes to the universe, and that Netflix and Sony are serious about expanding this universe. And maybe they'll jump all in. Paramount has done that with Star Trek. They've done so many Star Trek series, Star Wars obviously, and Marvel and DC's doing it. And I am wondering if low key the Miyagi-verse could be one of those for Sony and Netflix, like an original universe. I don't know. What do you think?
The possibility absolutely exists. I mean, if you consider Cobra Kai the flagship, kind of like the Avengers, and then you can take multiple storylines. We could be talking about several different shows at once. That one show comes out in the fall, one comes out in the spring, and it's not just one for 6 seasons and then another for 6 seasons. We could be talking about several, with maybe a movie or a mini series, or maybe even a cartoon thrown in there at some point. Not every show has to be multiple seasons. You could get a limited series, like what Star Wars just did for Obi-Wan Kenobi. That might just be, one season. You have 1 season of young Kreese and Terry Silver. maybe that's not a story that could go on for season after season after season, because at some point you have to reach the present time, or at least you have to reach 1985.
Right.
But one season of that, 10 episodes just focused on their characters would be fantastic. So it just leaves open a whole bunch of different possibilities for different ways that they could go through it at the same time.
Yes. Now, Dislike Bomb says, like the Karate Kid animated series. Now, this makes me think, wow, what are the possibilities? Could we have more Karate Kid original OG 80s era Karate Kid stories in animated form with voice actors, Ralph Macchio, William Zabka actually voicing the characters? Like, is that an option? Like an animated series?
Yeah, I think it is. Again, to go from Star Wars, we've got the
Yeah.
movies, we've got the live shows, but we've also got these animated CGI things like the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, which are fantastic. Some would say even better than the live ones. You take real animation, real storylines, you make it just as big a deal and just as well done as the live shows. Yes, and that gives you the freedom to bring back Mr. Miyagi, for an example. And to do things that you couldn't do in a live show, to go back to the past, to different time periods without having to get new actors. Yeah, absolutely. If you do it right, you can take this story into a million different directions.
Yes, indeed. KZ0421 says, I hope to see more of Dimitri, his relationship with Yasmin, which they took from us this last season, and his life outside the dojo. Let's hope we meet his mother. Yeah, as we keep on going, Mike, I think you're right. It's like all of these characters could have their own spinoff. It's just such great characters and wonderful actors portraying them. And I'm really excited. I hope Netflix go ahead and I hope they greenlight multiple series. And so this is just the beginning, and we have a lot more to look forward to, us Miyagi fans. But Mike, I want to give it to you. What would you say are some kind of wrap-up thoughts on spinoffs and the Cobra Kai series? General thoughts, wisdom you'd like to leave everyone with today?
Well, like I said, I'm just really looking forward to this year. I think even if it's going to be the last season, it's going to be an epic season. It's going to be so huge. Our minds are going to be blown. Even those of us who watch and talk about this show every day, we're still going to be shocked. And again, it's also probably not a year from now. We have probably a whole year until we're even talking about this season coming out. So let's just make this 2023 the year of the Cobra Kai fandom. Let's just go to town. The show's going to go to town. Let's go to town here with your shows like yours. And I'll be doing my thing on my page with the memes and all the fan artists out there with your amazing work. Let's just, they're showing us the love. Let's show the love back to them. Let's make this an epic year here too.
I love it. That's a great thought. And everyone, go follow Mike, Cobra Kai Wisdom, on Twitter, on Instagram. I've got links in the description. Do it. It'll brighten up your day every time he posts. If you've enjoyed this, go ahead and hit subscribe and like if you're not already subscribed. It makes you feel good, and it's totally free. And you'll get notified if you hit that notification bell of all the content we have coming out. And so be sure to check out Cobra Kai Kids channel tomorrow. We'll be starting writing season 6. We'll be writing it with you guys, or we'll come up with our version of it at least. And then next week in this time slot on Saturday, we will have David Chatraw, Tom Cole from Cobra Kai. He'll be on here live talking about just his career and taking your questions. So watch for posts and social media and YouTube where you can write your questions if you have a question for David Chatraw. So, Mike, thank you again. Thanks for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on board, and I look forward to you coming again soon.
This was a blast. Thanks for having me again, Ken.
Absolutely. And have a great rest of the weekend, guys. We'll see you next time